there. Welcome to this episode of Experts on Purpose. The special guest we have today is Ashlee Sang, and she's going to tell us how she has managed to create a successful business that does brand messaging consultancy. So she works with visionary founders who want to grow their impact and their business in a way that's rooted in values and propelled by purpose. Ashlee's portfolio ranges from small businesses and community organizations to ethical fashion, tech for impact, government, and beyond. The common thread has been sharing messages that matter. Before doing brand messaging strategy and business consulting, Ashlee worked with a variety of nonprofit organizations, including a human rights education NGO in Senegal and a local branch of Habitat for Humanity. Hey, Ashlee, welcome to Experts on Purpose.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's such a pleasure to have you on the show, Ashlee, because your bio really touched my heart. And I got to know that you're an accidental entrepreneur. So how did that happen?
Yeah, I think so many of us are accidental entrepreneurs. So I know I'm not alone. But I come from the international development and nonprofit sector. That is where I learned all the communication skills, internal communications, media relations, donor relations, nonprofit management, community management, all the things that go into communications. And when my husband and I were waiting for his green card, we were in Senegal in West Africa. He is Senegalese. And I started freelancing on the side because I thought, oh no, we don't know when we're going to be able to move. We don't know where we're going to end up. I should see what's out there. And so I started freelancing and I really enjoyed it. And so even once we moved to the States and we got settled, I kept freelancing because I really liked working with different types of people, different types of missions, different skill sets. I liked not being boxed in. And so at the beginning of 2019, it had been a few years already freelancing. And I just decided, you know what, I want to do this full time. I think I can have a much greater impact working in a really specific way with lots of different people than trying to fill a role sort of 9 to 5 with a singular organization. And it's sort of grown from there. I definitely viewed myself as a freelancer in the beginning and then have sort of evolved to view myself as a business owner and an entrepreneur and building something bigger than just the projects I work on.
Yeah, that's very interesting, Ashlee, because a lot of entrepreneurs don't directly jump from being an employee to an entrepreneur. There's this middle zone called being a freelancer, which actually teaches you a lot of things, especially the things that you're not supposed to be doing. And you probably learn a few things about yourself and you realize that for me to achieve these lifestyle goals, I need to become an entrepreneur. So could you actually realize some of the things while being a freelancer about what kind of business you wanted?
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things about entrepreneurship is we essentially get paid to learn about ourselves, about the world.
So true. I never thought of it that way.
Yeah. So I have definitely learned that I value time freedom. And that is one mistake that I have made over and over is I've boxed myself into being sort of tied behind my computer screen 9 to 5 plus. And to what end? Like I make the rules. This is my business. I get to determine my hours and how much I work, in theory. So that's been something that has been a really big mindset shift for me is figuring out how to build a business for me rather than me trying to fit into this business that is cookie cutter.
Yeah.
And then also pricing has been really scary and hard, especially when we're the face of our business. My business is my name. Yeah. So it can feel really tied to your personal value, even though, of course, the value you provide to clients is so much more than your personal value. And all kinds of lessons like that. I had no idea how many mindset shifts were necessary and how many blocks there were until I confronted them. And then what's really interesting, especially with something like imposter syndrome, is once you overcome it, the next phase of your business, you hit it again in a new way, which is sort of frustrating, but also I
It's a
have
sign
learned
of
from
growth, right?
conversation. Yeah. I've learned from talking to so many entrepreneurs that it's common and we all go through it and we all will eventually get through it as well.
Right. It's absolutely normal.
Mm-hmm.
So when you finally decided to start it as a business, you already had a lot of skills by working with non-profit organizations. So how did you pick that one skill of brand message consulting as your core for the business?
Yeah, that also was an evolution. I'm sure many listeners are like, what is brand messaging? I also didn't know what it was. I didn't know it existed. So that was a natural evolution. Working with clients, I was doing mostly copywriting, so website copy or like bios or sort of the business words that people needed, or I was doing content creation, so lots of social media at that point, or blog posts. So both angles are how I came to working with businesses and nonprofits, is sort of like the copywriting and the content writing. And then I slowly got my feet wet with strategy projects. Somehow I got hooked up with an agency and they were brought in. And so I was the person to handle that. Or somehow I kept being in closer contact with more and more strategy work. And the more and more I did it, the more I realized, ooh, this is what I love. This is what I'm good at. I'm really good at connecting those dots for people and giving that outside perspective that they can't see because they're so deep in it.
We are so close to the business, right?
Yeah, it's so personal, right? Which is such a beautiful position for me to be in, that someone allows me to be come alongside them and help them grow their business, which is so personal. But that's exactly why you need the outside perspective, is because we are just so close to it. Even determining our own values and our ideal audiences, like it's so hard for us to take a step back, and it's so much easier when you have someone to reflect it toward you. So I have just found that strategy work is not only more impactful for the business, but also for me personally. So it's definitely been an evolution to get here.
Right. So today, for those people who are watching or listening to us, how would you define brand messaging, and what is the importance of having this, really sorted in a business?
Yeah, for me, brand messaging is really the foundation of every single business, every single brand. It is how you show up in the world. So many of us know branding as your logo, your colors, your typeface, the visual aspects, right? And of course, like that's how you're recognizable. But I would argue that your brand messaging is actually even more important in how you are perceived and how you are recognized. So this is how your values are lived out. This is how you decide what is your next offer, who your ideal audience is, what your overarching mission is. This is how you decide who you're going to hire, who you're going to collaborate with, which podcasts to pitch, all the things. The brand messaging is really that foundation of who you are as a brand, what you want to be known for, and how you want to make people feel when they interact with your brand.
Sure. It is definitely so important. But typically, when you work with your clients, Ashlee, do you get clients who are already established, but they are still trying to figure out their brand messaging, or they're trying to reinvent themselves? Or do you like working with clients who are just starting out and they want to get things right before they expand?
So both. That's the beauty of brand messaging. And that's the beauty of business, is it's a constant evolution, right? So I really love working with startup founders or maybe coaches or service providers who are just getting their business off the ground and really figuring out, what do I want this business to even be? I have this idea, or I have this skill set. I have this really powerful vision. I don't know how to make it a reality. And I really love getting in on that ground floor and hashing through those details with them and piecing together all of those little bits of their vision, because most of us have that really powerful vision. We just can't always convey it to everyone who doesn't live inside our head and heart all day long.
Yeah.
So I really love that sort of startup phase, but it's also really useful to do brand messaging strategy once you're established and you've maybe plateaued, or you have a whole new audience you want to reach, or you have a whole new offer, or you've just realized that, oopsies, I started this business and I didn't have much direction. I'm creating content, but there's no strategy behind it. Or I have this website and it's beautiful, but the message that's being conveyed doesn't reflect who we are as a brand anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe your team has grown. Maybe like I was doing communications and now I'm doing more marketing consulting, right? So we all constantly evolve as brands, as founders. And so it doesn't really matter what phase you are, whether you are just starting out or really looking to level up. I love brand messaging strategy because it's helpful in every phase.
Right. I get it. So I see a lot of people, especially if you've done your MBA and gone to a B school, you're supposed to write your vision, mission, values, and all of that stuff and hang it up on the wall and make sure all your employees know it. But then I see that not every company really embodies those values. They have it just for the sake of having it. But what would be some of your suggestions on how to really live those values?
Yeah, I actually have a 5-day series specifically called Live Out Your Brand Values because yeah, because it is so important, right? It is more than just the 3 words you slap on your about page and never look at again, right? And consumers see through that now, especially if you're a really big brand. Actually, even if you're a solopreneur and you say that, I don't know, transparency is one of your core values, and then you get on a sales call and you're all wishy-washy with the price and the process and all the things, the person on the other side of that conversation is going to feel that, that misalignment, and vice versa. They'll feel the alignment when you are living out your brand values. So I really see brand values being lived out in 2 main buckets. One is your marketing. So obviously your website copy, your overarching messaging, your social media bios, maybe even something as subtle as your email signature, the way you sign off, or if you have an inspirational quote, or whatever it is that you include in your email signature, that's an opportunity to show off your values, right? Or maybe you have a link to Black Lives Matter or Stop Asian Hate or some cause that's very important to you, right? So those are your marketing vehicles, obviously the content you create. But then also what I think people often neglect is living out their brand values in their operations. So this is who you choose to collaborate with, what types of stages you choose to show up on. Again, if diversity and inclusion is important to you and you are on a stage with everyone who looks just like you, maybe that's not a stage you should be on, or maybe that's an opportunity for you to speak up to the organizer and make a change, right? Also, if you have a physical product, how and sustainability is important to you, how have you incorporated sustainability into your inks and your shipping and your packaging and the product itself, right? So there are lots of little and really, really big ways to live out your brand values, both in your marketing and your operations. And it should be a constant filter for every decision you make. Does this align with my values and my audience? Easy yes if it's in alignment, easy no if it's not.
Yeah, those are really actionable things that people can look at immediately, right? So thanks for sharing that. I'm also curious to know if it can be incorporated in our sales process also, other than the marketing and the operations, because I've had this experience. We've recently started speaking about the collaboration with a nonprofit education institution in India. I used to do that on a personal level before, but last year I decided, why should I keep this as a secret? Why can't I talk about it proudly, right? And in one of my sales conversations, I spoke about it to a client just to share about why that's so important to me. And she had such a deep connection with me as soon as I spoke about it, because she's doing something similar in her country. So I realized that I should probably start speaking about it intentionally in my sales calls too. So do you also recommend that?
Yeah, that's beautiful. And that's a great example of attraction marketing or just building connection on via sales,
Mm.
right? Is this idea of showing off your values to hopefully resonate with the person on the other side of the conversation, and also to push away and repel the people who are misaligned. If they think, wow, why would you throw your money away to a charity, or why would you waste your time? That's not your ideal client, most likely, right? Like that's not the type of person that you probably want to be working with.
Right.
So I absolutely think it's a great way to incorporate your brand values in the sales process. Or for example, on my invoices now, I
Mhm.
have a line item that says something like, I'm a member of 1% for the planet. Thank you
Mm.
so much for being part of this mission. Or some, I can't remember the exact wording I have, but essentially showing them that by paying this invoice, 1% of this invoice is
Mm.
going directly to environmental organizations that are helping our shared planet thrive, or at least hopefully survive, right? So
Yeah.
I think that incorporating your values in your sales process is a wonderful way to deepen the connection with someone who was already kind of sold,
Mm.
or really tip the scales to hopefully make that sale.
Wow, I'm going to copy that idea of adding, our, social costs on our invoices, because
Yeah.
uh, our clients will immediately feel great about playing their part in contributing to this, right?
hmm Yeah, and then it's not out of their pocket, right? They were already going to
Yeah.
pay this fee,
Anyway,
and
yeah.
they are you are the vessel, and they're able to do good too. And it's a wonderful way to sort of pay it forward all together and collectively.
Yeah. Have you ever had experiences, Ashley, where you are working with a very, purpose-driven entrepreneur who wants to implement all of this, but they face resistance from their team members who really don't get it. They just want to get done with their work and move on, and they're not really committed to what the company is all about in terms of their mission and stuff like that. So, how would you advise an entrepreneur who is going through that challenge?
Yeah, so I don't think I have specifically gone through that, because
Mhm.
generally the people I work with are attracting team
Yeah.
members and clients who are aligned.
Yeah.
But to someone who is going through that, I would advise working on conveying that why really,
Mm.
really clearly. Really explaining to, for sure, existing team members who are giving the resistance, but then also to any future team members to avoid future misalignment. Really explaining, this is why we do what we do. This is why we spend extra time on proposals,
Mm.
because this is in alignment with this value. Or for
Mm.
example, I'm actually working with a client right now, and they are specifically spending more money on employees and their hours, because they want their clients who come through the facility to have extra face time, extra personal time with more employees, right? They
Mm.
could have a higher profit if they had fewer
Yeah.
trainers, but it's really important for them that their clients get that really personal touch. So it's important for anyone who works with them to understand that.
Mm.
So I think really, making sure the founder, the business owner, is really, really in tune with those values, and that audience is the first and foremost. That's the most important, so that it can trickle down and they can explain to their team, all
Yeah.
right, this is why we're doing what we're doing. And then for anyone who can't get on board, I think that's the
They won't
time
be
that you
the
have
good
to wear
fit.
that really difficult
Yeah.
manager hat and say, maybe this isn't working out, and
Yeah.
find someone who is a better fit.
Mm. What I like about what you're teaching today, Ashley, is doing this work is not just going to help us attract the right clients into the business, but also retain the right employees, and
Mhm.
people who do not align with the values and the mission of the company will automatically walk away. So I think it's a great filtering system.
Yeah, it really is. And it's a really almost gentle way. It's meant to feel good for everyone.
Yeah.
It's not meant to be imposed on anyone. And so hopefully anyone who does feel misaligned might even take themselves out of the equation. That would be the goal.
There are so many marketing agencies out there who create strategies and campaigns for their clients. So when you established yourself as an organization, as a company, how did you instantly differentiate yourself, Ashlee? And as a result, how did you attract your first few clients?
Yeah, that's the golden question, right? We all do. For all of us who do something in the world, there are 600 or a million competitors, right? So I really do think that leaning into your values is the sort of quickest and most authentic way to differentiate yourself. So I have been sort of vulnerable in my entrepreneurial journey, sharing, oh, wow, this tech problem has been really annoying, or it's been really difficult for me to overcome this mindset or something like that, to then attract other people who have gone through that, who at least appreciate that sort of transparency, for example. Or another way that I have been less successful at, but I think is really, really effective and I would recommend, is niching down. We all hear it, but it's so difficult to do sometimes. Really getting clear on that one core audience, or if you have multiple offers, making sure that each of those offers has a very clear audience. So not just who they are on paper, so those demographics, but also who they are as a person, what makes them tick, what they care about. So the psychographics, that is really, really important. And the more specific you can be, it makes you so much more memorable for any of your colleagues that you come across in the entrepreneurial space. If you say that you are a life coach, all right, we probably all know 30 other life coaches, right? But if you say you are a life coach for postpartum women in the first 6 months living in, Australia or something like that, wow, that is so specific. And so if I come across a woman that fits that profile, you are the first person that's going to come to mind. Or even if I come across someone who kind of fits that profile, you might still come to mind faster than any of the other generic, unlabeled life coaches that I know, right? So that is the power of niching. And that is something that I am sort of constantly trying to get more and more granular on in my business. And then you had asked about how I found my first clients. So initially, it was on Upwork when I was just freelancing on the side. When I started my business full time, I really leaned into local networks. And that was really valuable. And I live in a fairly small city. And so word of mouth travels a lot faster than somewhere like New York or London. And then from there, when I wanted to really focus on social impact organizations and founders, I leaned into a lot of online communities. There are a lot of places online, lots of corners of the internet that list postings or just provide an opportunity for you to connect with people. And so if you share your story and if you reach out to hear theirs, a lot of times there's a really big snowball effect from there.
Thank you for sharing that. So during the pandemic, did you have any kind of a different impact on your business?
So what's really strange is 2020 at the very beginning was when I had already decided to go all in on social impact and really turn to online communities. And then 3 months in, all the rest of the world was also leaning into online communities. So that really, I think, was a bolster for my opportunity to reach so many more people, just because so many more people were in these spaces and they were also seeking connection and they were also wanting to connect with like-minded people. So that was a positive aspect for sure. I think I did lose a couple local clients because they lost some of their clients. So there was a little bit of a downfall, but honestly, I think not only with the pandemic, but also with all of the social issues in the US specifically and around the world, so many more people are wanting to be conscientious with the people they work with the brands that they buy from, with the businesses that they're building. So this is really an opportune time for people who care about making an impact in the world and building a business for good. Now is the time. Now is the time to really get the word out. And there is a lot of opportunity for people like me who want to work with people who care.
So true. I think the pandemic has made all of us look a little more inside than just looking outside. And the other thing that I've generally noticed is there are some companies who've always been very mission oriented, but even the companies who've always only been profit oriented are also changing because they have understood that their clients care a lot about what these people are all about. And that has made them really become more caring and more purpose driven. So in a way, I think overall the world is just getting more conscious driven. So that's really nice, and you're in the right space actually for that, Ashlee. So just one last question: if somebody wants to work with you, what are some of the typical ways to work with you? Do you do one-on-one coaching, or do you have like a duration or time period with which you will engage with your clients? How does it work?
Yeah, so I am shifting away from project-based work to intensives. So I have a 1 hour quick win consulting call. That is where we just dive into any marketing issue or question or visioning that the founder needs. So whether it's establishing their audience persona or working through these 10 different marketing questions or brainstorming content ideas, that is a great vehicle for that type of work. I also have a 1 day intensive called the Messages That Matter VIP Day. And this is an opportunity for us to sit down and co-create a brand messaging guide that will then inform all of those marketing and operations and of course sales decisions. And so that is partially sort of live on a call and partially me going off and creating the guide based on their feedback, all in 1 day.
Wow.
And then I also have a 90-day program that incorporates both of those. So month 1 is focused on brand messaging strategy, and it has consulting calls built in. And month 2 is a content marketing strategy VIP day intensive to kick off the month, and then those consulting calls. And then month 3 is weekly consulting calls. And the whole goal is to give the founder empathetic accountability so that they can take action, show up consistently, confidently, and really make their mark in the world.
Wow, I really love the way you've structured your programs because there could be something for everyone. So for those people who are listening or watching us right now, Ashlee, I know you have a free download for them. So where can they find that, and where else can they go to find more about you?
Yeah, thank you. So for anyone who wants to download the Stand Up to Stand Out workbook, you can go to ashleesang.com/experts on purpose, and it'll walk through some brand messaging basics for you and a consistency checklist, because any strategy is only as good as its implementation. So I really want you to be able to apply it via that checklist. And then beyond that, you can just connect with me on either Instagram or LinkedIn. That's where I'm most active. I'm at Ashlee Sang Consulting on Instagram, and then just Ashlee Sang on LinkedIn.
Perfect. We'll have all the links right below in the show notes. Thank you once again, Ashlee, for coming on Experts on Purpose.
Thank you so much.